Welcome back, English learners. If you've ever felt like native speakers have some kind of secret to speaking naturally and confidently, then today, we're revealing it all. Have you ever listened to a fluent speaker and thought, why do they sound so effortless, while I keep hesitating, overthinking, or struggling to find the right words? If that sounds like you, then you're in the right place.
That's exactly what we're unlocking today. Whether you want to speak English fluently, think in English faster, or adopt the habits of a native speaker, this episode is for you. But here's the exciting part. By the end of today's episode, you won't just know the theory. You'll have a step-by-step plan to start transforming your English immediately.
That's right. We've broken everything down into 10 powerful chapters covering mindset, speaking techniques, daily habits, and the secret strategies fluent speakers use every day. We'll teach you how to train your brain to think in English, how to sound natural in conversations, and how to build a daily routine that makes fluency automatic.
And trust me, this episode is not just about listening. We're going to challenge you to take action. So, if you're serious about improving, grab a notebook, take notes, and most importantly, be ready to speak and think in English like never before.
So, are you ready to take your English and your confidence to the next level? Then let's dive in. Chapter 1. What does it mean to think like a native? Let's start with a big question. What does it really mean to think like a native speaker? A lot of learners believe that fluency is just about knowing more words or mastering grammar. But here's the truth. Thinking like a native isn't about knowing every word or speaking with perfect grammar. It's about feeling natural in English, just like you do in your native language. Think about it. When you speak your first language, do you pause to construct every sentence? No. You just speak, without translating, without overthinking. That's exactly how native speakers use English. They don't stop to analyze grammar rules or search for the perfect word. They just express their ideas naturally and confidently.
That's such an important point, Adam. And let's be honest, most English learners don't struggle because they lack vocabulary or don't know grammar. They struggle because they're stuck in the habit of thinking in their native language first, then translating into English. And that creates hesitation, unnatural pauses, and frustration. But thinking like a native means you train your brain to respond in English automatically, without that extra step of translation. Imagine this. Someone asks, "How was your weekend?" A non-native thinker might first translate the question into their own language, then think of a response, then translate that response back into English. That's why conversations feel slow and stressful. But a native speaker? They just answer instantly because their thoughts are already in English.
And that's exactly what we're going to help you do in this episode. We're going to rewire your brain to start processing English like a native. It's not about memorizing more rules, it's about changing how you think.
Yes, and the best part, it's totally possible. You don't need to live in an English-speaking country to start thinking like a native. You just need the right techniques and habits, and we're going to show you exactly how to build them.
But first, we need to talk about the mindset shift that makes all the difference. Because before you change how you speak, you need to change how you think about English. Let's dive into that next. Chapter 2. The Mindset Shift. Stop overthinking and start speaking. One of the biggest things that hold learners back isn't grammar, isn't vocabulary, it's overthinking. You know that feeling when you want to say something in English, but instead of speaking, your brain gets stuck thinking, wait, is this the right word? Is my grammar correct? What if I make a mistake? And by the time you've figured it out, the conversation has already moved on. This happens to so many learners, and it's a real problem. It's called analysis paralysis, where you think so much that you actually stop yourself from speaking. And let me tell you something. Native speakers don't do this. They don't pause to analyze every single sentence in their heads. They don't obsess over grammar before they open their mouths. They just speak.
Exactly. Think about how you speak your native language. Do you pause to think, wait, should I use present perfect or past simple? Of course not. You just say what's on your mind. But when it comes to English, Many learners believe they need to sound perfect before they speak. Let me tell you something important. Fluency is not perfection. Fluency is confidence. When native speakers talk, they make mistakes all the time. They mix up words, they start a sentence and change their mind halfway through. They forget things, just like you do in your own language, but they don't stop. They keep going because they trust their ability to communicate. So, what's stopping you from doing the same? Think about it. If you say something with a small mistake, will the other person walk away? Will they laugh at you? No. In fact, they'll probably not even notice.
Let's do an experiment right now. Wherever you are, I want you to say one full sentence in English, out loud, right now. Don't worry about grammar. Don't check if it's correct. Just say something. Maybe, today is a busy day. I love learning English. This coffee tastes really good. Say it right now. Don't pause. Don't correct yourself. Just say it.
Yes. And how did that feel? Maybe a little uncomfortable at first? That's okay. The first step to fluency is getting comfortable with speaking, even when you're not sure if it's perfect. Here's a challenge for you. Every day this week, say at least one sentence out loud in English without overthinking. It can be about your day, your plans, your thoughts, anything. The more you do this, the faster you'll break free from overthinking and start speaking naturally.
That's the key. Speak first. Fix later. Stop waiting until you feel ready to speak English perfectly. You'll never feel ready. Fluency happens when you start talking, even when it's messy, even when you're unsure.
And don't worry, we're going to give you practical techniques to help you sound more natural and confident. But before that, let's talk about a mistake that most learners make, thinking in their native language instead of English. This is a fluency killer.
Chapter 3. How to train your brain to think in English. If you truly want to speak English like a native, one thing you absolutely must do: stop translating in your head. This is one of the biggest reasons learners hesitate. They try to form a sentence in their native language first, translate it into English, fix the grammar in their minds, and only then try to speak. But by the time they're ready, the conversation has already moved on.
Exactly. Imagine you're having a conversation, and instead of responding instantly, you're stuck thinking, okay, I need to say I went to the market yesterday. Wait, is it went or have gone? Should I say the market or a market? This hesitation kills fluency. But don't worry, there's a way to train your brain to think directly in English, without translating.
Let's start with a simple exercise. Right now, wherever you are, look around and describe what you see in English. Say it out loud if you can. If you're in your room, you might say, "My phone is on the table. There is a blue chair next to the window." Don't worry about making the sentences perfect. Just get used to thinking in English. The goal is to connect words to images, not translations.
Another powerful way to train your brain is inner monologue. This means thinking in English inside your head throughout the day. You're already thinking all the time, so why not do it in English? For example, if you're making coffee, instead of thinking in your native language, try to narrate your actions in English. I'm making coffee. I need to add some sugar. This smells so good.
This might feel strange at first, but trust me, it works. The more you do it, the faster your brain will automatically start thinking in English. And here's a challenge for our listeners. For the next hour, try thinking only in English. No translating, just simple thoughts.
And if you get stuck on a word, don't switch to your native language. Instead, describe it using the words you already know. For example, if you forget the word refrigerator, say, "It's the thing that keeps food cold."
Yes, that's how native speakers think when they forget a word. They don't pause, they just explain it differently.
So let's recap. Describe your surroundings in English. Think in English all day. Use an inner monologue. If you forget a word, describe it instead of translating.
If you do these things every single day, your brain will automatically start thinking in English. And when that happens, speaking fluently will become so much easier. Chapter 4. The secret to sounding natural. Imitate native speakers. If you want to sound like a native speaker, the secret is simple. You have to learn from native speakers. But here's the mistake most learners make. They study grammar, they memorize vocabulary, but they never actually listen to how real people talk. Imagine trying to learn to swim just by reading about it. You'd still sink. The same goes for English. If you want to speak naturally, you have to listen naturally. That means exposing yourself to real conversations, movies, podcasts, interviews, and everyday speech. But here's the most powerful trick. Don't just listen. Imitate.
That's right. One of the best ways to train your brain to sound more natural is shadowing. Shadowing means you listen to a native speaker and repeat after them immediately, matching their pronunciation, tone, and even rhythm. It forces your brain and mouth to work together in English just like native speakers do. Let's try a quick exercise. Repeat after me. That's amazing. I'm going to grab some coffee. What's up? See how natural that sounds? When you mimic native speakers, you start absorbing their way of speaking without even realizing it.
And that brings me to another powerful technique, using contractions. Think about this. Native speakers rarely say full formal sentences in casual speech. They don't say, I am going to meet my friend. They say, I'm gonna meet my friend. They don't say, what do you want? They say, what do you want? This is the rhythm of natural speech. If you want to sound less robotic, start using contractions and relaxed speech patterns.
Yes. Let's do a quick challenge. I'll say a sentence in formal English, and you try to say it the way a native speaker would. Ready? 1, I cannot believe it. 2, do you want to go to the movies? 3, I will talk to you later. Now, Adam, how would you say these like a native?
Easy. 1, I can't believe it. 2, do you want to go to the movies? 3, I'll talk to you later. See the difference? It's smoother, faster, and sounds more natural.
Exactly. And here's a fun way to practice. Watch a scene from a TV show, pause after every line, and repeat it exactly how the actor says it. Focus on the rhythm, pronunciation, and even their emotions. This is how you pick up natural expressions without even thinking about grammar.
This is how kids learn languages. They copy what they hear until it becomes automatic. So, if you want to sound like a native, don't just study English. Live it, hear it, and most importantly, speak it. Chapter 5. Stop studying like a student. Learn like a native. Let's talk about a major reason why many English learners struggle to speak fluently. They study English like a school subject instead of a real-life skill. Think about how most people learn English. Textbooks, grammar exercises, memorizing vocabulary lists. But is that how native speakers learn their own language? Absolutely not. Think about when you were a child learning your native language. You never sat down with a grammar book and studied verb conjugations before speaking, right? Instead, you listened to people around you, copied what they said, and just started speaking, even if it wasn't perfect. Your brain naturally picked up the language through experience and repetition. But when learners approach English, they focus too much on studying rules and theories instead of using the language in real conversations. That's why many learners feel like they know English but can't actually speak it fluently.
That's such an important point, Adam. Many learners believe that they need to understand every grammar rule before they can start speaking confidently. But here's the truth. Fluency comes from usage, not just knowledge. Imagine you want to learn how to swim. You read books on swimming techniques, watch tutorials on how to float, and even memorize the mechanics of a perfect stroke. But when you finally jump into the pool, do you suddenly know how to swim? No. You learn by doing. You have to get in the water, struggle a bit, and make mistakes before you improve. The same goes for English. You don't need to know all the rules before you start speaking. You need to dive in and start using the language, even if you make mistakes along the way.
That's exactly it. The biggest difference between fluent English speakers and those who struggle is that fluent speakers use the language daily. They don't worry about perfection. They focus on communication. So, let's talk about how you can stop learning like a student and start learning like a native. First, learn words in context, not in isolation. Many learners make the mistake of memorizing long lists of random vocabulary words, thinking that knowing more words will make them fluent. But that's not how the brain works. If you learn the word delicious, don't just memorize it alone. Learn it in real sentences. This pizza is delicious. Wow, that meal was delicious. I just had the most delicious dessert ever. When you do this, your brain doesn't just remember the word, it remembers how to use it naturally in conversation.
That's a game changer. Another mistake learners make is waiting until they feel ready to speak. But here's the truth. You will never feel 100% ready. Many learners think, I'll start speaking once I improve my grammar, or I'll practice after I learn more vocabulary. But confidence doesn't come before speaking. It comes from speaking. You have to start using English even if you make mistakes. That's how you build confidence and fluency. Think about children learning their first language. Do they wait until they have perfect grammar before they start speaking? No. They try, they make mistakes, they repeat words, and over time they improve. That's exactly how you should learn English.
Absolutely. And one of the fastest ways to accelerate your fluency is to surround yourself with English every single day. When you were learning your first language, you heard it constantly, at home, at school, with friends. You need to create that same immersive environment for English. That means listening to English podcasts or YouTube videos daily, changing your phone and apps to English, watching movies and TV shows with English subtitles, or none at all. The more English you expose yourself to, the faster your brain will absorb it. You'll start recognizing common phrases, understanding natural speech patterns, and feeling more comfortable using the language.
Exactly. And here's something that works wonders: a full English day. Try spending an entire day where everything you listen to, read, or say is in English. From the moment you wake up to the moment you go to bed, surround yourself with English. Listen to a podcast in the morning, think in English throughout the day, and even write your daily thoughts in English before bed. It's one of the most powerful ways to make English a part of your daily life.
That's such a powerful technique. When you do this, English stops being something you study and becomes something you live. And once you make that shift, fluency becomes so much easier. So, if you've been treating English like a school subject, it's time to stop. Start using it like a real skill.
And remember, mistakes are part of learning. Natives make mistakes all the time, but they don't let it stop them from speaking. The goal isn't perfection. It's communication. So throw away the fear, start speaking, and embrace the process.
Yes, because when you stop studying like a student and start learning like a native, everything changes. Chapter 6. The Daily Routine of a Fluent English Speaker. Let's break this down. If you want to speak English fluently, you don't need to spend hours studying every day. You need a smart, consistent daily routine. Think about it. Native speakers don't study their language. They just use it all day, every day. So, what if you could build a routine that makes English a natural part of your life? Here's what your daily routine should look like. Check mark morning. Start your day with English. Listen to a short.
Okay, so are you ready to kind of like dive into something completely unexpected?
I'm ready.
Okay, so today we're exploring how cleaning your house can actually help you learn English.
Interesting.
Yeah, so we're looking at this text called English Learning Through Household Chores. I know, right? Who knew that tidying up could be good for more than just like, your home?
Yeah, exactly. The text says that cleaning the house make it for English learning.
Okay.
It's not really grammatically correct, but I think the idea is really interesting.
Yeah, it definitely caught my attention. I mean, could scrubbing the floor or folding laundry actually help you learn English?
Well, I mean, it's not as crazy as it sounds.
Okay.
When you're cleaning, you're usually alone, right?
Right.
And when you're alone and you're doing that kind of like repetitive activity, it can really like free your mind, you know?
Yeah.
So you're relaxed. And that kind of environment is actually really good for language learning because it takes the pressure off and you're more likely to try new words and phrases without feeling self-conscious.
Yeah, that's so true. It's like when you talk to your plants or your pets, you're not worried about making mistakes. You're just letting the words flow.
Exactly. And this is what we call incidental learning.
Mm.
It means that we learn things passively without even realizing it.
Oh.
So you might be focused on like cleaning the dishes or something,
Right.
but your brain is actually absorbing new vocabulary and grammar.
Wow. So instead of mindlessly cleaning, we could actually be using that time to improve our English.
That's the idea.
But how do we actually do that?
Well, just think about the language we use when we're cleaning.
Okay.
We have words for tools like broom, mop, duster, actions like wiping, sorting, scrubbing,
Right.
even locations like cupboard, countertop, pantry.
Yeah.
So just by cleaning your house, you're learning a whole bunch of new vocabulary.
I never thought about it that way.
It's like a built-in vocabulary lesson.
Yeah.
And it's not just vocabulary, you also learn about sentence structure.
Okay.
Because when you're cleaning, you're thinking in steps, right?
Yeah.
Like, first I clear the table, then I load the dishwasher, after that I wipe down the counters. So you're repeating these steps in your head, and that helps you understand word order.
So cleaning is like a secret grammar workout.
Exactly.
Good. But what about pronunciation?
Cleaning can help with that too.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, how many times have you said something like, I hate ironing, or this stain will never come out while you're cleaning?
Oh, yeah, all the time.
Right, so even those little outbursts can be good practice for your pronunciation. And because you're alone, you don't have to worry about anyone judging you.
So you're saying that even complaining about chores can be beneficial.
Exactly.
I love it. But let's be real. Just cleaning probably isn't enough to become fluent, right?
Well, you're right. Just cleaning passively won't make you fluent.
Okay.
But there are ways to make it more focused, you know?
Oh, okay. How?
Well, you could make a cleaning vocabulary list, for example. Write down all the words and phrases that you use for each task. Or you could set a timer for like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And try to describe your cleaning process out loud in as much detail as possible.
Interesting.
You could even listen to an English podcast or audiobook while you're cleaning.
That's a good idea.
It's all about creating an immersive environment.
So we can turn our chores into language learning opportunities.
Yeah.
It makes me think about all the other things we do every day that we could use to learn English,
Like what?
like cooking, gardening, even
Yeah.
just commuting to work.
Right. There are so many possibilities.
Yeah, the key is to just be mindful and look for those opportunities to practice.
Exactly. It's about making English a part of your daily life.
So next time you're cleaning, remember you're not just cleaning, you're also improving your English.
And that's something to be proud of.
Yes, definitely. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this too. Have you ever noticed yourself thinking in English or practicing phrases while you're doing chores? Let us know in the comments.
Yeah, let us know.
Okay, that's it for today. Thanks for listening.
See you next time.
Bye.
Podcast or an audiobook while getting ready. Instead of scrolling through social media in your native language, check out an English news article. Even changing your phone settings to English helps keep your brain in English mode from the start. Afternoon, use English actively. Narrate your day in your head. Talk to yourself in English. For example, when you're having lunch, think, "This sandwich is really tasty. I need to buy more bread later." These small habits make thinking in English second nature. Evening. End your day with English. Watch an episode of a TV show with subtitles. Pay attention to how native speakers use words, their intonation, and sentence structures. If you hear a useful phrase, pause and repeat it out loud.
I love this. The key here is immersion, surrounding yourself with English as much as possible. And here's the great thing. This routine doesn't take extra time. You don't have to set aside hours of study. You're already getting ready in the morning, eating lunch, and relaxing at night. Why not do it all in English? Let's say you commute to work. Instead of listening to music in your native language, listen to an English podcast. If you text your friends a lot, challenge yourself to write some messages in English. Even small things like writing your grocery list in English make a difference.
Yes, and let's add another powerful habit, shadowing. Have you ever heard a native speaker say something and thought, wow, I wish I could say it like that? With shadowing, you can. Here's how it works. 1. Find a short clip, maybe from a YouTube video, podcast, or TV show. 2. Listen to one sentence, pause, and repeat it exactly how the native speaker says it. 3. Try to copy their pronunciation, speed, and even their rhythm. This is one of the fastest ways to sound more natural because it forces your brain to think and react like a native speaker.
And remember, fluency isn't just about learning more words. It's about building confidence and using what you already know every single day. Think of it like fitness. You don't need to work out for 3 hours once a week. You need 20 to 30 minutes of consistent exercise every day. The same rule applies to English.
Exactly. And one of the biggest fluency hacks is to speak before you feel ready. Many learners wait until they think their English is perfect before speaking. But guess what? Fluency comes from speaking, not from waiting. Even if your grammar isn't perfect, just speak.
Yes, and the best part? If you follow this simple daily routine, you'll improve without even realizing it. One day, you'll wake up and notice that you're thinking in English, responding faster, and feeling way more confident.
So, let's make this a challenge. Starting today, commit to using English in your daily routine, morning, afternoon, and evening. Do this for just 1 week, and I promise you'll feel the difference. Chapter 7. Common Phrases and Expressions. You must know. One of the biggest differences between fluent English speakers and learners is how they use expressions. Native speakers don't just speak in textbook English. They use casual phrases, idioms, and slang that make their speech sound natural. And if you want to transform your English like a native, you need to know these. So, let's go through some must-know native phrases that will instantly make you sound more fluent. How's it going? Instead of saying the formal, how are you, native speakers often say, how's it going? This is a more relaxed and friendly way to ask how someone is. I'm all ears. If someone is about to tell you something interesting, instead of just saying, I'm listening, say, I'm all ears. It shows enthusiasm and makes your speech sound more expressive. It's up to you. This means you decide. Instead of saying, you can make the decision, just say, it's up to you.
Exactly. Using these expressions will instantly make you sound more natural and confident in conversations. And the best part? They're super easy to learn. Let's add a few more. No worries. Instead of saying that's okay or don't worry, just say no worries. This is what native speakers use all the time when someone apologizes or thanks them. That's awesome. Native speakers love using words like awesome, amazing, or incredible instead of just saying, that's good. If you want to sound more enthusiastic, use that's awesome instead of that's nice. Hang on a second. Instead of saying, wait a moment, just say, hang on a second. It sounds way more natural.
And here's another one that can completely change the way you speak. You know what I mean? This is a phrase that native speakers use all the time in conversations. Instead of just saying something and stopping, they add, you know what I mean? At the end of their sentence. It makes your speech sound more natural and interactive. Example. This coffee is way too strong. You know what I mean? That movie was so boring. You know what I mean?
That's such a good one. And speaking of making English more natural, let's talk about something really important, connected speech. This is how native speakers say things quickly and smoothly. Instead of, what do you want? They say, what do you want? Instead of, I don't know, they say, I don't know. Instead of, let me see, they say, let me see.
Right. This is why sometimes learners struggle to understand native speakers. We don't always pronounce every word clearly. We blend words together. If you want to sound fluent, start using connected speech.
And here's the challenge for our listeners. Pick 2 of these phrases and use them in a conversation today. The best way to learn them is not just to listen, but to actually use them.
Exactly. Learning common expressions is the fastest way to sound fluent without needing advanced vocabulary or grammar. If you start using these phrases, your English will transform instantly. Chapter 8. How to overcome fear and speak with confidence. Let's talk about something that holds most learners back: fear. Fear of making mistakes, fear of sounding silly, fear of not finding the right words. It's one of the biggest reasons why people understand English but still struggle to speak. Have you ever been in a situation where you wanted to speak, but your brain just froze? You started overthinking, and by the time you were ready to say something, the moment had passed?
Oh, absolutely. And the worst part? The more you hesitate, the more nervous you become. It's like a cycle. You're afraid to speak, so you don't. And because you don't, you stay stuck at the same level. But here's the truth. Confidence doesn't come from being perfect. It comes from taking action. If you keep waiting until you feel ready, you'll be waiting forever. The only way to become a confident speaker is to start speaking before you feel ready.
Exactly. And the good news? You don't have to be perfect. Even native speakers make mistakes all the time. They forget words, they say and they even mess up their grammar sometimes. But the difference? They don't let that stop them from talking. So, what's the solution? How do we break the fear and start speaking?
Here are 3 simple strategies. Checkmark speak even when you feel nervous. The only way to get better is to practice. Don't wait until you feel comfortable. Confidence grows because you take action, not before. Use filler phrases when you forget a word. If you can't think of the right word, don't panic. Native speakers do this all the time. Instead of freezing, say, "Let me think for a second." How do you say, "That's a good question"? These small phrases buy you time and make you sound fluent even when you're thinking. Stop being afraid of mistakes. Mistakes are not failures. They're proof that you're learning. Think about it. Every time a baby learns to walk, they fall 100 times. But do they stop trying? No, and that's why they succeed. And
That's such a powerful point. Mistakes are not what hold you back. Fear of mistakes is. If you can learn to embrace mistakes as part of the journey, you'll improve so much faster. Here's a challenge for our listeners. Say one sentence in English out loud right now, even if it's not perfect. Just say anything. Describe where you are, what you're doing, or what you had for breakfast. The goal is to practice without worrying about mistakes.
that's right. And remember, confidence is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. The only way to stop being afraid of speaking is to start speaking. Even small steps count.
Chapter 9. Mastering Pronunciation and Sounding. More natural. All right, now that we've tackled the fear of speaking, let's talk about something that can instantly make you sound more confident and fluent. Pronunciation. Have you ever said a word, and the person you were talking to didn't understand you? Not because your vocabulary was wrong, but because of how you pronounced it? That's frustrating, right?
Oh, absolutely. And here's what happens next. You start doubting yourself, thinking, maybe my English isn't good enough. But let me tell you a secret. Pronunciation is not about perfection. It's about rhythm, tone, and the natural flow of speech. Think about native speakers. They don't pronounce every word separately. They blend sounds together. For example, instead of saying, "What are you doing?" a native speaker might say, "What are you doing?" Instead of "I am going to eat now," they say, "I'm going to eat now." This is called connected speech, and it's one of the most important things that make your English sound natural and effortless.
Exactly. And here's the good news. You don't need a perfect accent to sound fluent. You just need to focus on the rhythm of English. It's about how words connect, how some sounds disappear, and how intonation changes meaning. So, let's talk about some practical ways to improve your pronunciation. Shadowing technique. This is where you listen to native speakers and repeat exactly what they say at the same time, matching their tone, speed, and rhythm. It helps your brain get used to the flow of natural English. Slow down and exaggerate. If a word is difficult, break it into smaller sounds. For example, Instead of struggling with comfortable, say it slowly, comfortable. Then speed up as you get used to it. Record yourself speaking. This is a game changer. Record yourself saying a sentence, then compare it to a native speaker. Notice the differences, adjust, and try again.
And let's not forget one more powerful tip. Watch your mouth. Yes, I mean it. Watch yourself in the mirror when you speak. English has sounds that might not exist in your native language, so pay attention to how your mouth moves. For example, the TH sound in this and that. Many learners pronounce it as Z or D. But if you watch yourself in the mirror and make sure your tongue slightly touches your teeth, you'll get it right.
Great tip. And here's the most important thing. You don't need to sound exactly like a native speaker to be understood. The goal is not to sound perfect. The goal is to sound clear, natural, and confident. So here's a quick challenge for our listeners. Try saying these sentences out loud using connected speech. Instead of I don't know, say dunno. Instead of let me help you, say let me help you. Instead of did you see that, say did you see that?
Yes, and don't be afraid to exaggerate the sounds at first. Play around with your pronunciation. English is a living language. Treat it like music. Chapter 10. How to handle fast English and understand native speakers. All right, let's talk about something that terrifies many English learners: understanding fast English. Have you ever been in a situation where someone spoke so quickly that it felt like their words were just one long sound? Maybe you caught a few words here and there, but everything else just vanished? And here's the worst part. You understand English just fine when reading or listening to slow, clear speech. But the moment a native speaker talks at normal speed, it feels impossible to keep up.
Oh, I've seen this happen so many times. The problem isn't that you don't know the words. It's that native speakers connect and reduce sounds in a way that makes sentences sound completely different from how they're written. For example, let's break it down. Instead of, what do you want to do? Logically, a native speaker says, what do you want to do? Instead of, did you see it? Zrania, they say, did you see it? Instead of, I should have told you. Logically, it becomes, checkmark, I should have told you. Now imagine listening to an entire conversation where every sentence is spoken this way. If you're used to textbook English, it feels like another language.
That's exactly why so many learners struggle with listening comprehension. They're expecting words to be clear and separate, like in a language learning app. But in real conversations, everything blends together. It's fast, it's connected, and it's full of reductions.
So how do you fix this? How do you train your ears to keep up with fast, natural English? Let's go through some powerful strategies. Listen to fast English every day. The more your brain gets used to fast speech, the easier it will be to understand. Don't just listen to slow-learning audios. Start listening to real English, like podcasts, movies, and everyday conversations. Use the pause and repeat method. Find a short video or audio clip, pause after every sentence, and repeat what you hear. Focus on how the words connect and try to mimic the rhythm. Focus on the main idea, not every word. You don't need to understand every single word, just catch the key message. Native speakers do this too. If you try to listen to each word separately, you'll fall behind and get stuck. Instead, train your ears to grasp the overall meaning.
And let's add one more tip. Practice predicting words. If someone says, hey, do you want to... You already know they're probably asking you to do something. Your brain fills in the gaps. That's what native speakers do naturally. Here's a challenge for our listeners. Find a short video clip in English, play it at full speed, and try to repeat what they say. Don't slow it down. Just listen, repeat, and let your brain adjust to the speed.
Exactly. At first it'll feel difficult, but the more you expose yourself to fast, natural speech, the easier it becomes. Soon you won't even notice the speed. You'll just understand it naturally. Chapter 11. The Secret to Thinking in English. Faster. All right, let's talk about something that can completely transform your fluency. Thinking in English. If you want to sound fluent, You can't rely on translation. The moment you try to translate every word in your head before speaking, you'll slow down, hesitate, and lose confidence.
Yes, this is one of the biggest differences between native speakers and learners. Natives don't translate in their heads, they just speak naturally. But many learners still think in their native language and then try to find the English words, which takes too long and makes speaking feel stressful. So how can we train our brains to think directly in English? How do we break the habit of translating?
Let's go step by step. First, start with small thoughts. Instead of translating objects around you, just name them in English. See a chair? Just think chair, not the word in your native language. Look outside? Think, it's a sunny day, instead of translating the sentence. Your goal is to associate words directly with their meaning in English, not with another language.
That's a great first step. Next, let's move to question and answer exercises. For example, ask yourself, what's my favorite food? Answer in English instantly. I love pizza. What did I do yesterday? I went to the gym and watched a movie. By forcing your brain to answer quickly, you train it to stop thinking in your native language first.
And one of my favorite techniques? Talking to yourself throughout the day. I know it sounds funny, but trust me, it works. Narrate your actions as you go about your day. I'm cooking dinner right now. I need to buy milk later. I'm walking to work and I see a lot of cars. The more you do this, the more your brain gets used to forming sentences in English.
And here's a powerful trick that can accelerate this process. Set your phone and daily life to English. Change your phone language to English. Follow English-speaking YouTubers, bloggers, and influencers. Write your daily to-do list in English. Even think about your emotions in English. If you're happy, say, I'm feeling excited today. If you surround yourself with English, your brain will naturally start thinking in it.
Chapter 12. How to stay consistent and keep improving. We've covered a lot so far: thinking in English, pronunciation, understanding fast speech, and speaking with confidence. But now comes the biggest challenge: staying consistent. Many learners start strong, but after a few weeks, they lose motivation. How do we stay on track and keep improving?
That's such an important question. Learning English is not about studying for a few months and stopping. It's about building a lifestyle around English. The key: make it a habit, not a task.
Right. Instead of saying, I have to study English today, say, I'm going to enjoy some English content today. Watch a TV series in English for fun. Read an article about something you love. Join an online community where people chat in English. If you enjoy the process, you'll stay consistent effortlessly.
And another game changer? Track your progress. When you see improvement, it motivates you to keep going. Record your voice today, then compare it after 30 days. Write a short diary entry in English and see how much better you get over time. Notice when you start understanding more of what native speakers say. Seeing real progress keeps you excited about learning.
That's so true. And here's another tip: surround yourself with English speakers. If you don't have English-speaking friends, join a language exchange group. Find a conversation partner online or in your city. Even talking to AI chatbots in English helps you practice. The more you engage with real conversations, the more fluent you become.
So, listeners, think about this. What's one small habit you can add to your routine today that will keep you improving? Choose one and stick with it.
Chapter 13. How to stop doubting yourself and believe in your progress. Let's be honest. Every learner has moments where they think, am I really getting better? Or, why is my progress so slow?
Yes, it's normal to doubt yourself, but here's the truth. If you're practicing, you are improving. Even if you don't notice it yet, your brain is processing new information every day.
Think about how kids learn languages. They don't sit down with a textbook. They listen, repeat, and make mistakes. And one day, they just start speaking naturally.
Exactly. So if you feel stuck, remind yourself, you're better than you were a month ago. Mistakes are proof that you're learning. Progress isn't always visible, but it's happening.
And here's a fun exercise. Imagine your future self in 6 months. What will your English sound like if you stay consistent? Picture yourself speaking fluently. That's where you're heading.
So trust the process. Keep going. You're on the right track.
Chapter 14. The Native Speaker Mindset. Think like a confident communicator. All right, time for a big mindset shift. Stop thinking like a student and start thinking like a confident communicator.
What do we mean by that? Many learners think, I need perfect grammar before I can speak. But native speakers don't speak perfectly all the time. They forget words. They make grammar mistakes. They use simple language. Yet, they still communicate confidently.
So instead of worrying about small mistakes, focus on the message. Don't aim for perfection. Aim for clarity and connection.
Yes, think about it. What's more important? Speaking perfectly but hesitating, or speaking naturally with confidence? The second one.
And the best way to get this mindset? Speak more. The more you speak, the more natural you become.
So listeners, repeat after us. I don't need to be perfect. I just need to communicate. Keep that in your mind every time you speak.
All right, we've covered everything you need to transform your English like a native speaker. But now, it's time for action.
Yes. We don't want you to just listen to this podcast. We want you to take action right now. Here's your 7-day challenge to start transforming your English. Day 1. Set your phone and daily life to English. Day 2. Think in English all day, no translating. Day 3. Watch an English video and repeat key sentences. Day 4. Speak for 5 minutes about your day, no hesitation. Day 5. Learn 5 new phrases and use them in sentences. Day 6. Have a real conversation in English. Day 7. Record your voice and track your progress.
If you follow this challenge, I guarantee you'll feel more confident, more natural, and more fluent in just 1 week.
So, are you ready? Say it out loud right now. I am committing to improving my English starting today.
We believe in you. Keep going, keep learning, and we'll see you in the next episode. Thank you.
I miss talking to you when the moon lights up the sky. These nights feel empty without your laughter nearby. I feel the breeze brush my skin. It's whispering your name. This heart beats a lonely rhythm. It's missing the same. Stars seem dimmer now without your twinkling eyes. I keep replaying memories. They catch me by surprise. The wind brings me echoes of your gentle voice. I'm lost in the silence of this empty noise. I walk the quiet streets, haunted by our past. Your shadow lingers long after the moment's past. Leaves rustle secrets of our time gone by, while the moon watches over tears we both can't hide. Daybreak brings no solace, just a different kind of ache. Dreams dissolve in daylight as I struggle to awake. The world keeps on spinning without a care to give, but in my heart you've planted memories that live. I pushed you away when you needed me close. Felt fear in my bones at the thought of growth. Now I'm haunted by the dreams you had. All alone in the dark, it drives me mad. Saw your hopes in the stars.